مساء الخير جميعا، كيف حالكم؟ إن شاء الله today we will talk about the syntactic component. We will look at some syntactic operations used to create meaning. So the function of syntax is to create structures, and these structures are used with words to determine the meaning. So meaning requires two things, which are syntactic structure and words. Now, inshallah, through this video I will talk about three syntactic operations, which are creating simple sentences, combining simple sentences to make complex ones, and movement. And we use movement to make questions or passive constructions. Now, why these operations are important? Because they give us the ability to create sentences with different meanings. So it depends on the point we want to focus or to concentrate on. For example, John bought a book for you yesterday. Now we are trying to focus on the element or the thing being bought, which is the book. Now the book here is the direct object, as you know, and for you here is the indirect object. Now if you want to focus on this, you have to move this element into here to make a passive sentence. So a book was bought for you yesterday. Now let's start talking about the first syntactic operation, which is creating simple sentences. Now simple sentences must contain hierarchical organization. Now as you can see here, this is the lexical level. As you can see, the boy loves the puppy. Now, as you all know that the sentence must include two main constituent parts, which are the NP, the noun phrase, and the VP, which is the verb phrase. Now, each main element also includes different sub-elements, as you can see. Now, the hierarchy of this structure means that we start from the bottom to the top. So we start, for example, with this NP. We have the determiner and the boy, which make the NP. Then we have this VP, for example. Let's say we have loves eating. So we have a verb and a noun to create the VP. Now the NP and the VP make the sentence. بمعنى آخر الهيراركي معناه أنه ببلش عنا من القاعدة حتى رأس الهرم. دائما الجملة بتبلش عنا من القاعدة اللي هي lexical items، نعمل منها phrases, then phrases make sentences. إن شاء الله تكون هاي النقطة واضحة بالنسبة لكم. So, why syntactic constituents are said to be hierarchically organized? Why? Because they are embedded in one another زي ما انتو شايفين يعني. Now we have two NPs in this example. The boy loves the puppy, right? We have NP1, NP2. Now in NP1 we have the determiner and the noun. The same case we have in NP2. We have determiner and noun. Now we have this phrase, which is the NP2, is embedded under the VP. So this is what means that hierarchy of the sentence. So the NP is embedded or dominated by the VP. And the VP is dominated by the S, as well as the NP is dominated by the S. Okay, another point to add to creating simple structures or simple sentences. As you all know that in every sentence we have a verb, and verbs could be transitive or intransitive. With transitive verbs we have to use three main components or elements, which are the subject, the verb, and the object. With the intransitive verbs we have to use two obligatory elements, which are the subject and the verb. Now let's talk about simple sentences again. As you can see that any simple sentence has a single verb, and this verb requires grammatical elements called arguments. Try to focus on this word now, of the verb. So the verb at least takes one argument, and this is in the case of intransitive verbs. يعني لما يكون في عنا intransitive يعني فعل لازم, the verb takes only the subject as one argument. So as you can see, which is the subject. Now if we have a transitive verb, then the verb takes at least two arguments, which are the subject and the object. Now look at this example. We have John slept. Now we have intransitive verb. This verb takes only one argument, which is the subject, which is John. The PN refers to proper noun, by the way. Now look at this example too. Now, as you can see, we have a sentence. John put the book on the table. Now this is the verb. The verb here is transitive. It takes at least subject, object, and a preposition or a prepositional phrase. So how many arguments does the verb put take? As you can see, we have the subject, again, this is number 1. The book is number 2. And the PP is argument number 3. Okay, another point to add here is that we can interpret the relationship between the verb and their arguments in two ways, syntactically or semantically. Now, they must be of two kinds. Structurally, it means syntactically. We talk or we use syntactic terms such as subject and object, or thematically, which refers to the semantic interpretation, referring to the agent, the patient. As you can see, the agent who performs the action of the verb, and the patient is the argument that undergoes the action of the verb. Now, the second function or the second operation syntax allows is combining simple sentences to make complex ones. So complex sentences are a combination of two types of sentences, as you can see. The first type, we call it the matrix or the independent or the main clause. The second one is the subordinate or the dependent or the embedded one. Let's try now to understand the difference between these two types using these examples. So, when I get a job, I will buy a car. As you can see, we have two sentences. One of them depends on the other. So, when I get a job, now the meaning here is not finished, is not complete. So we can say that this is the subordinate clause. I will buy a car. As you can see, the meaning here is complete. I don't need another sentence to complete the meaning here. So we can say that this is the main clause. We don't care about the arrangement. We can use the subordinate here or the main clause here. It's the same. Now, you can see the difference also. We can use subordinate conjunctions such as when. We use it with subordinate clauses to give, for example, to give meaning. Now the second example, as you can see, they claim that he is brilliant. Now here we have two sentences, but we have something else here. Now, they claimed is a sentence with one verb. This is the VP. Now, this is called sentential complement. This one, as you can see, it started with that. We call it a complementizer. And this sentential complement is embedded under the VP. It is part of this VP. And that here is called complementizer because you need to differentiate between that as complementizer and that as a relativizer. Now, example number 3. Mary speculated that they claimed that he is brilliant. Now look at these two sentences. Now we have Mary speculated. Now we have a VP here. Then that they claimed. This is sentential complement 1, sentential complement 2. That means that there is no limit for embedding. And this property of syntax is called recursion. يعني تكرار. We can use the same structure, which is sentential complement, over and over to add more meaning and to add more elements of the same sentence. Now, example number 4, the musician that Anne just met dated the girl that lives across the street. As you can see here, we have at least 3 sentences as the following. The musician dated the girl, Anne just met the musician, and the girl lives across the street. Now we combine these 3 sentences using that. As you can see, that and that. Now that here modifies 2 nouns. We have the musician and the girl. So that is the sentence. This sentence is called the relativizer. يعني اللي هي بنسميها relative pronoun. I think يعني you studied this before. Okay. So for example, if I have this sentence in your test and I ask you a question, is this a complementizer or a relativizer? You have to differentiate between these two. So to summarize, that recursion can be created through 2 ways, using sentential complements and relative clauses. So the final operation here we have is movement, and I talked about this before. As you can see, we can focus on a certain element to create a specific meaning by moving an element in the sentence to a different position. And you have these examples. I think I scanned these papers for you before and you have them. So take a look at these examples. I think this is all we have related to the syntactic component. I will provide you with more videos inshallah and more explanations like this during this week. So please try now to prepare yourself to your quiz. Inshallah it will be on next Sunday. I will announce this for you on e-learning and we will talk about this later on. Thank you.